My husband was assaulted by someone on the street when he was walking home tonight. It seems like the other guy was looking for a fight. He accused my husband of something innocuous, then proceeded to badger him down the entire block, shoving him and knocked him down once. My husband chose not to engage, thinking the guy might be homeless and have mental health issues. He didn't want to escalate and just kept walking. Eventually, he found an open restaurant, went inside, and waited there until the person was long gone, then continued on his way. He felt nervous the rest of the way home. He is rattled, enraged, and shaken. He tells me he feels like less of a man because he didn't fight back. He's a big hockey player. This is his main feeling. He hates that someone made him feel small, vulnerable, and scared, and that he allowed it by not fighting back. He feels ashamed. He feels so much shame that he made me promise never to tell anyone about this because he doesn't want to be perceived as a softy or unmanly. I can understand how he feels, but it's hard for me to empathize completely as a woman because our lived experiences are so different. I feel like he was clearly the better man here. I feel like he showed judgment, restraint, and even some compassion. This guy was spoiling for a fight, and my husband didn't give it to him. The person didn't get what he wanted. My husband won. And I don't know about this other guy, but my husband has a pretty ideal life. I feel like he has won in many ways. I just listened. I agreed with everything he said. I validated every feeling. I told him that I can imagine how scary it was and how I understand his rage. I also tried to provide him with my perspective a little so he knows that he is not less of a man to me, that he is, in fact, greater. He doesn't want me to touch him. He's now downstairs, trying to cool off by watching TV and having a drink. This has never happened to him before. He's having a really hard time processing it. I wish he would talk to some of his friends about this, but he won't. I'm worried he's going to bottle up all his anger and perhaps explode on someone undeservedly. I'm also worried that he'll feel scared walking at night for the foreseeable future. What is the best way I can support him? Tadus? Do not tadus? Update. I did not expect to get so many responses. Thank you. There is too much to reply to, so I can't answer all the specific questions, but a quick update. I really appreciate the insights many of you shared, explaining the reasons he is feeling shame or fear and how he might be processing it or not. It's different from how I think, so I am grateful for the little window into his brain. I also really appreciate the advice on ways I can best support him. I took screenshots of many of your comments about what to perhaps say or not say. I definitely heard loud and clear to give him space. I also heard from some of you how similar incidents have stayed with you for a long time. I am just worried about him and want to ensure that I am helping and not hurting. Really, thanks again. Additional thoughts. I understand the viewpoint of those who feel I shouldn't have posted this because my husband asked me to keep this private. I thought this was anonymous and a way to get some insights and advice from men without asking anyone who actually knows me or my husband. I will absolutely delete this after I've read and digested it. Thanks for the reminder. Final note. Believe it or not, I have read through a large proportion of these comments. Some of you disagree with my husband's course of action, and that's fine. From my perspective, what's done is done, and I'm concentrating on moving forward. Thank you to everyone who offered to chat with my husband and those who shared going through a similar experience. You men have to go through some tough experiences. I said it before, but it's worth saying again. I'm really blown away by all your insights. So much that I never considered, like what it might feel like for a man to face the reality that maybe they aren't a hero or can be vulnerable. Also, many of you mentioned martial arts, especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I had to look up. Super interesting. We'll definitely bring that up. This entire thread has been extremely helpful to me. I literally took notes. Thank you to all of you, truly. I'm sorry I wasn't able to reply to anyone directly, but I very much appreciate everything you've shared. Merry Christmas. Story 1. There are a lot of replies, but one anecdote I didn't see is that you should never confront someone who has less to lose than you do. Since you've said his life is great for the most part, it makes sense for him to avoid strange people and their confrontations. He has a lot to lose. He was smart for that choice, and I just put it in that frame. His feelings are understandable, but he did the right thing. Jail sounds terrible, and he successfully avoided that. Kudos to him. Story 2. His gut instinct told him not to engage. Once he was out of that situation, his mind decided to play what-if scenarios. His gut instinct got him home alive, albeit with a bruised ego. Not engaging is often the way to go. You never know if a guy has a weapon, friends ready to jump in, or is a skilled fighter nowadays. Story 3. I feel like a lot of people responding have never been in a situation like this and don't really understand how your husband is feeling right now at all. Everyone is saying to tell him he's the bigger man for walking away, but that's not what he wants to hear because it's false to him. In your husband's eyes, he didn't fight back because he was scared, not because he was holding himself back and didn't want to hurt the guy. The guy scared him and his flight reflex overtook his fight reflex. Walking away wasn't the harder option because that's what he wanted to do. He was scared. I've been in the situation he has. I felt like less of a man, like someone who let someone scare him and hurt him and didn't do anything about it. It takes a long time to get over it, and it hurts your confidence and makes you feel inadequate and small. Everyone likes to think they're going to react like an action hero and be a total badass if a certain situation arises, and it can be incredibly disappointing and jarring if you don't react the way that you thought you would or thought you should. If I were you, I wouldn't bring it up again unless he wants to talk about it. If he does, reassure him that he's still a man and that it's okay that he got scared. Fights can kill you or the other person. I've been in some bad fights. I got my teeth kicked out, and I had to have reconstructive surgery on my face. It was painful and cost thousands of dollars. I've hurt someone so bad that they got a traumatic brain injury. Is any of that worth it at all? No. Edit. If you see this original poster, I want to make it perfectly clear that if your husband opens up about how he was afraid, reassure him that fear is okay and normal. Most men aren't born fighters. There can be no courage without fear. Story 4. He is the bigger man for not giving in to the other guy's actions and stooping to his level. The other guy wanted to pick a fight, and he was strong for not giving in to that. He did a great job, and it's okay to be scared. This situation can escalate quickly. As for how you can support him, it's not really sure, as these things are quite subjective to the individual. But I think you're doing a great job. The only thing I can think of is not to baby him, like trying to comfort him as you would a child. He did a great job not giving in, so focus on that, I think. Story 5. Whatever you do, make sure you avoid making him feel emasculated. He was not emasculated by this and did the right thing, but it could make him think otherwise. Story 6. I am a hothead. I have never started a fight, but I certainly won't back down from one. That all changed when I met my wife and had kids. I still feel the sentiment your husband has expressed, but my wife will remind me of my own words. A true man puts his family first, no matter what. You can't be there for your family if you die in a pointless fight or even become permanently injured in a way that affects your ability to be a provider. Whether he is conscious of it or not, he chose to come home safe to be there for you over impressing a mentally ill stranger. His insecurity is likely because he's questioning whether he chose not to fight out of fear. Tell him that you're happy you weren't there with him, or he would have ripped the poor fool to shreds protecting you, and likely would have gotten in trouble. You're a good woman for trying to understand him, and he's a good man for choosing you over his pride. Story 7. He's high on adrenaline right now. That's going to make him snippy. Try to find the right balance between giving him space and doing what you're doing. Story 8. I'm 6'3" and 300 pounds. Just a big guy. I was in a convenience store and noticed a man glaring at me. Got my peanuts and soda and checked out. When I exited the store, the man was at the back of his truck, close to the store door. The man grabbed my arm and said, "I know you." I said, "You do?" "Yeah, I do." Then he pulled a razor knife on me. I immediately turned around and walked back into the store, announcing that the man had pulled a knife on me. The store clerk held the door closed as the man tried to come in, then locked it. The police came and I went to the station to give a statement. While there, the man came back looking for me. Police arrested him. He had a gun underneath his seat and had murdered his dad that morning. He thought I was his brother and intended to kill me. I could have done the manly thing and fought him, or I could trust my gut instincts. Your significant other did the right thing. You never know. Story 9. Discipline to not be immediate in asserting violence is healthy masculinity, though. Grace is honestly a remarkable quality, and it sounds like that's the path he went. Surely, though, I don't guess it would happen again. Story 10. Hey, thanks for asking this question and seeking advice. Good for you for listening to your husband, taking what he has experienced seriously, and recognizing that this is something you may not have experience with and know exactly how to handle. Before I give some thoughts based on my experience going through similar situations on what you can do for your husband, I want you to consider yourself for a moment. It may seem selfish to do so at a time like this, but you're not going to be able to be there for him if you don't also take care of yourself. Understand that you're not going to know exactly what to do or say and forgive yourself for it. You're only human, and you can only do so much. It's better to try and do something imperfect than to do nothing at all. Secondly, appreciate the toll that having a partner experiencing a physically traumatic and frightening event can have on you, especially when that partner has been trained throughout decades to repress his emotions and feel emasculated for doing the right thing. There is a lot of complicated, deeply rooted stuff in there, and it can be messy and hard to untangle. If you need to take care of yourself, do it. In whatever way that means for you. You can't help him process if you're drowning in it too. All right, on to your husband. When similar situations happened to me, I was devastatingly angry in so many different ways. Angry at myself for how I responded like your husband. Angry that I could have been more aggressive and more of a man. Angry that maybe I could have been better at conflict resolution and stopped it before it began. Angry at our society that creates men like this. And angry that part of being a man means dealing with this kind of aggression from other men. Other people have said to never ask him about it or try to talk to him about it. Ultimately, you have to do what feels right for you, but I want to say that I disagree with that blanket statement. Throughout their lives, men are actively punished for speaking about their emotions and their feelings of sadness, weakness, post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, etc. So, with that in mind, him not bringing it up may not mean he doesn't want to talk about it. It may mean he is dying to vent about it to someone he trusts and who he knows loves him no matter what, but doesn't have the tool set or the strength to overcome decades of shame around opening up when he is feeling like this. Obviously, there is a time and a place, and I trust you to find one that is more appropriate. This stuff cuts deep, and if you think he would be open to it, I would encourage you to bring up the possibility of him seeing a therapist. It did wonders for me. Again, you know your husband better than any one of us. Seems like your heart and mind are in the right place. Trust in yourself. Let me know if I can be of any help. Cheers. Story 11. For as much as folks are saying he's the bigger person for not engaging, for me anyway, that wouldn't be helpful to hear. He needs his feelings validated. He feels terrible for not engaging. Saying he's the bigger man is essentially saying, don't feel what you feel. Not helpful. It's important to validate how he feels and give support, however that looks. It may be talking. It may be sitting in silence. It may be giving some space initially. He needs to process the events. In the longer term, if he is still struggling, therapy may be helpful. This may have impacted his self-identity. Big man can handle himself. The fact that he felt fear may really shake him. Someone may be able to help him understand that his feelings, fear, and others are natural. Lastly, it may be time for a new hobby. A martial art like judo or Brazilian jiu-jitsu may help restore confidence. Importantly, they have practical street applications. Martial arts are like first aid. Hope it's never needed, but glad to have it in case of emergency. I wish him and you well. Story 12. Hi. This thread's winding down, but here's one more piece of advice from someone with a psychiatry background. It sounds like you've already done well. He shared things with you, and it sounds like you were supportive. Many men take a while to process things, which is why some people in this thread are saying to leave it be for now. He will probably absorb the things you've already said more and more as time goes on. When someone goes through a traumatic event, it takes a while for things to settle in them, no matter what help they get. I'm not saying he is traumatized, but what happened to him is certainly something that has the potential to traumatize people. You can't take away his pain or change how he feels. You are absolutely correct in your assessment of how well he handled the situation, and you are absolutely right that what he did was not only the better but also the manlier choice. It's sad that he can't see that right now, but he needs to come to that realization on his own. If he signals that he wants to keep discussing what happened with you, I would keep telling him what you've been saying. If he signals that he wants to leave it alone, I would put faith in him that he can get himself to a place of healing with what you've already given him. Either way, be patient. Stuff like this frequently takes a long time to recover fully from, and everyone has to do it in their own way. He sounds like a guy you should be proud of. He made the right choice under a lot of pressure, even though it hurt his pride. You sound like a wonderful partner to him. Based on what you've said, you have good instincts for caring for him, and you are clearly devoted to him. Best of luck to you both. I think, based on your story, that this will turn out well for him. He sounds self-aware, and he has a great support system in you. If he still feels very bothered by what happened in a month or so, I would suggest he speak to a psychologist or psychiatrist. Don't push him to share with his friends if he doesn't want to. An impartial person like a therapist is better. Signs he should speak to a therapist. After a month, he's still getting nightmares about this. After a month, he's afraid to go out alone at night. After a month, he's hypervigilant, meaning he startles very easily, doesn't like people being behind him, etc. Any flashbacks to the incident where he or a part of him feels like he's still back there and it's still happening. My impression is it's unlikely he's going to need therapy over this, and if he does, it will probably be a trauma he can get over without too much pain or difficulty, based on how you described his reaction. Again, he sounds self-aware, which can be very protective, and he has great support in you and what you've already done. Let him share what happened with you immediately after it happened, and tell him he did the right thing and that you're proud of him is highly protective. But if he does end up feeling traumatized by this, just be there for him and be patient through the pain. You both got this. Peace. Story 13. Just leave it alone. If he wants to talk about it, he will. If he brings it up again, you can talk about how badly he would have beaten the guy up, so he did a good thing by sparing him. Story 14. I know this will get lost. I just hope the original poster gets to read this. You have a great boyfriend. He is the man I am trying to become, to be as calm as possible and control my anger. I have been in a couple of fights and regret them all. I wish for all of them to have never happened. The brain is tricky. Whatever he chose to do, his brain would make him regret it. Your boyfriend is the winner and should be proud of himself. Story 15. He tells me he feels like less of a man because he didn't fight back. For context, he's a big hockey player. This is his main feeling. He hates that someone made him feel small, vulnerable, and scared, and that he allowed it by not fighting back. He feels ashamed. He feels so much shame that he made me promise to never tell anyone about this because he doesn't want to be perceived as a softie or unmanly. Diablo 165 is on point. The hardest part is to walk away. The shame is from the sense of helplessness, not physical threat. I feel like he was clearly the better man here. I feel like he showed judgment, restraint, and even some compassion. This guy was spoiling for a fight, and my husband didn't give it to him. The jerk didn't get what he wanted. My husband won. And I don't know about this other guy, but my husband has a pretty ideal life. I feel like he has won in a lot of ways. Tell him this. Story 16. As somebody trained in boxing and mixed martial arts, I will walk away from pretty much any street fight. I have seen for myself how badly a fight over nothing can go. Your ego isn't worth your life or somebody else's. Peace is being comfortable in a storm. Being the bigger man is letting nobody intrude on your peace. Story 17. Better a hero granting mercy than a villain feeding his ego. I had a situation similar to this with my wife and her girlfriends in downtown Los Angeles. I just had to ward him off with my intense gaze and stern tone, telling him he was out of line. Yes, I could have ended the situation when I felt in danger, but how does that help the already downtrodden? Your husband is a good person, original poster. Telling him so will make him feel better. Perhaps the troubled person will remember his kindness when they recover.